Welcome to Investing Quest. I'm an Italian guy who was born in France that lives in Canada. So if you're as lost as me in this world, you can benefit from this little podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking about the different presidents of the United States. We have four presidents today: George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and Joe Biden. In this video, I want to study the relationship between the S&P 500 and the presidents, because I believe there's a correlation between the performance of the S&P 500, the S&P 500 performance by president. This interactive chart shows the running percentage gain in S&P by presidential term. I think it's very interesting because we can profit from understanding these things, because the presidents have agendas, they make promises during their campaigns, and then they need to take action and vote on policies. So here you can put any president you want that's on this list. You know, even Harry Truman, Roosevelt, and you can see the impact they had. Maybe there's no correlation. I'm not an expert, but maybe there is. That's why I think this video can be helpful. So here is George Bush relationship with the S&P 500. So if you would have invested $10,000 in the beginning of this term, at the end you would have lost almost $4,000. So you would have $6,000 left. Barack Obama, you would have $17,000 of gain, so a total of 27,000. Donald Trump, 64%. And Joe Biden here, 48%. After finding this out, I was curious to know what sector led to the growth of each of the S&P 500 performance gains. I wanted to know if it was the financial sector, if it was the industrial, the technology, energy. This study is about finding out what component or what sector of the S&P 500 led to these gains or these losses in when we look at George W. Bush's term. Now, on this graph here, where we can see the different sectors, I would like to turn your attention to this graph where we can see the beginning of his mandate in 2001 to 2009. And this graph uses the S&P 500 as the base, because the S&P 500 contains the 500 companies, and inside those 500 companies there's some different sectors, and this is what I want to analyze with you today. The S&P 500 is the base case, and I compare all these sectors to the S&P. So that's why when we look at here on the side, we see different lines, different color lines. These are actually all the sectors, the different sectors inside of the S&P 500. So if you see here, it says XLE, XLB, XLU, XLV, etc. And this one doesn't say nothing, because this one is actually the S&P 500. And the S&P 500 is the average, but if we take all these sectors, we can see that they move all over the place. But if you combine all these sectors, they give the S&P 500. So that's why here it doesn't mention nothing, because it's actually the base case that I studied is the S&P, and the other ones are compared to the S&P. So that's why we can see that they have the ticker and not this one. So XLE is energy, the number one. Then we have XLB and XLU, utilities. XLB is for the material. It's his trading view. Inside trading view, we can see a lot of information, and invite you to go take a look if you want. So under Bush, we can see that XLU and XLB have performed the best. So we can click on XLB. If you're not sure what it is, it's an ETF that you can buy to have exposure to this specific material side of the S&P 500. So you see you have these companies, Sherwin-Williams for the paint, Ecolab, Air Product, Dow, Corteva, DuPont. Let's go see XLU now. It's the utilities. So we can see Next Era Energy, Southern Company, Duke Energy, Constellation, America Electric Power, Sempra, Excelton, Excelon. If you're unsure what we're talking about here, when we're talking about XLE, XLB, or XLU, the top performing, you can always go check on TradingView or other platforms, and you can click on it, and it will guide you to this page where you can get more information about the fund. So you can get exposure to the specific fund that you want. And you have these companies who are the top performing asset of this ETF. The material sector, XLB. Remember that. Then you have also XLU, one of the top performing that we can see with these companies inside it. You can get a lot of information if you go here. But that's not the point of this podcast. Because if you remember when we went to the S&P 500 graph, George Bush didn't perform very well in relation to the S&P 500. I'm not talking about the politics here. I'm just focusing on the data. And by the way, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just doing this for fun. So don't take this video and use this video to make decisions. It's just for entertainment purposes. So let's go back to the graph. We remember that the S&P 500 didn't behave in a positive manner. Some losses during his presidency. And we can see from studying this graph that there was not a lot of sectors that performed above 0% of returns. Most of them are negative. You see here, XLU minus 7%, minus 10% for XLV, XLP, and XLY, XLI, XLK, the technology, and XLF financial, which dragged the overall returns to 39%. So if you had $10,000 in the market from the beginning to the end with George Bush, you would have lost 4,000. So you would have 6,000 left. Now, Barack Obama. Barack Obama. So if we go back to his mandate in 2009, in this page I found the exact dates. It's on Wikipedia. So for him, his mandate started in 2009 and ended in 2017, January. We can see here that the stock market went up a lot. Under Obama, we had approximately 175% gain. So if you had $10,000 in the market, you would have gained 17,000 for a total of $27,000. Let's take a look at the reasons of these gains. XLY and XLK. XLY and XLK. XLY and XLK. XLY and XLK. XLY is here. Consumer discretionary. What companies are that? They are stocks, retail trade, consumer durables, consumer services, consumer non-durable. Which ones? Amazon, Tesla, Home Depot, McDonald's, Lowe's. These companies may have changed since then because these are the companies that are inside it now. Back then, I I was not able to find out exactly the weight. You see here the weight. You can see the weight of the distribution: 21%, 16%. They account for this ETF. You can buy this ETF now if you're interested. You can have a lot of data here on the side that you can dissect for more information. XLK. XLK is the XLK is the technology sector. Technology, electronic technology, technology services, producer manufacturing, Microsoft, Nvidia, Apple, Broadcom, right. Back then it was maybe different companies. Keep that in mind. XLRE. These are real estate REITs, mostly. From my understanding, you see minus or it's plus or 1, I don't know, plus 1%, close to 0 for real estate. I can go check it out here. Can go check it out. XLRE, real estate. So it's, yeah, finance, technology services, non-energy minerals. These companies, American Tower Corporation. I don't know much about these companies. It's not names that I know about, but I know that they give some dividends, some good dividends. But if you're interested in knowing all these other ones, you can go check it out. I will put the link in the description. So now, under Donald Trump, XLK technology, we studied it already before, 154% from the beginning to the end. So about a $15,000 gain if you invested 10,000, or 1,500 if you put an initial 1,000, amounting to 2,500 after from the beginning to the end of his mandate. As usual, I recommend more doing dollar cost averaging if you don't want to feel too much stressed when you go to sleep on Friday night because the markets are closed. You want to make sure maybe that you split the amount of money that you have available so that you take smaller chunks of this volatile market. It's stressful and it's more risky. So that's what I advocate for. XLY, XLV, XLB. Real estate again is in the lower half of performance for the sectors. XLE, which is the energy sector. I live in Canada, right? And I had this image of Trump being a very big oil guy. From Canada, I don't live there, but that was my misconception of the situation. But actually, XLE finished last. The energy sector. XLE. Let's go see it. Energy, minerals, services, utilities, ExxonMobil, Chevron, EOG Resources. I don't know this one. Marathon Petroleum, SLB, and other ones. Now let's go check it out with Joe Biden. XLE is first, energy. Now keep in mind that he is not done with his mandate yet. So we might see a change or a rotation in the sectors. But for now, XLE, the energy sector, is first. XLK, technology, so like Nvidia, Microsoft, Apple. XLF, financial sector. XLI, I forgot what it is. When the markets are crashing and everybody's selling, panicking, I learned that it's good to see it as a buying opportunity, is to buy low and sell high, or just hold forever. Fiat currency like the dollar, the euro, the Canadian dollar, or whatever other currency, It's like this. It's like they manipulated. They give you paper like this. I'm not the one who came up with this metaphor to explain money. It's Robert Kiyosaki, which I listen every Wednesday his podcast religiously. I learn a lot from him, and I'm very grateful for what he does for the community. He made me realize that the money that we are being issued is fake money. So that's why it's very important to know how to invest. Even if you just buy gold and you hold it in a bank somewhere safe, or anything, you know, if you can take just a little bit, like maybe 10% of your total money you receive from your pay or from income, just please invest a little bit for your future. Even sometimes I feel a bit discouraged of this paper because I feel like they 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 invent it. They dilute us from this money. They dilute. They just print more. It's kind of scary, to be honest. That's why I like cryptocurrency as well, and I encourage you to learn about all the other options that you have. You don't have to stick it all into the freaking RRSP or the IRAs. Take some out, or take some of your pay or some money and invest it in everything that you can have that it's not paper like this. That would be my conclusion for today. But before I let you go, I want to show you my little setup here. This is my setup for people who are interested in seeing a little bit behind the scene. This is what I use, and this is the paper, man. This is the paper. Sometimes I go to the grocery store and I can't believe they accept this as payment. That's crazy. See you next time.